Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a topic that honestly affects nearly everyone at some point, yet it's so sneaky that it usually goes completely unnoticed until you're completely tangled up in it. We're talking about the invisible strings of psychological manipulation. By breaking down the hidden tactics people use to control others, we're going to figure out exactly how they work, and far more importantly, how you can permanently regain your personal control. Let's get into it.
So, are you being manipulated without even knowing it? It's a pretty heavy question, right? Well, let's just validate a really common misconception right off the bat. When we hear the word manipulation, we almost always picture some dramatic movie villain with a grand master plan. But the reality? Manipulation rarely looks like an obvious, calculated attack. It's highly effective precisely because it hides in plain sight, masquerading as care, as confusion, or just, regular conversation. Actually, manipulation usually looks more like a heavy sigh, a sudden, overwhelming rush of romance, or just a really subtle rewrite of reality. These insidious tactics are ultimately about one thing: stripping you of your personal power and creating a sense of dependence. The goal is to get you questioning yourself so deeply that you just rely entirely on them. So, to really understand how to cut these strings and get your control back, we're going to group these threats into distinct psychological families to see exactly how they operate. All right, let's move into our first group of tactics: reality distortion. We've all heard the buzzword, right? Gaslighting. But here's the thing. Gaslighting rarely happens all at once. It is this slow, quiet process of rewriting the story. It's just one small denial at a time. It's someone casually saying, "Oh, you're just being way too sensitive," or "Come on, that never even happened." Over time, they rewrite the narrative so gently and persistently that you actually start to trust their version of reality way more than your own gut. It's wild how well it works. Because gaslighting relies entirely on causing confusion and doubt, your absolute strongest defense is aggressive clarity. You literally need to start writing things down. Trust how a situation made you feel, even if the other person is trying to spin it into something else. And honestly, most importantly, stop over-explaining yourself to someone who is clearly just pretending not to understand you. That right there is how you grant yourself permission to believe your own experience. Now, another extreme form of reality distortion is the DARVO method. This is absolute psychological sleight of hand. Imagine you bring up a totally calm, reasonable complaint. Step 1, they completely deny the harm. Step 2, they attack how you brought it up, criticizing your tone or your timing. And then step 3, the flip. They reverse the roles so suddenly they are the victim, forcing you to frantically defend yourself while the person who actually caused the harm plays the martyr. It's brilliant, but it is incredibly toxic narrative control. Here is the absolute key. DARVO only works if it successfully causes confusion. It completely falls apart when you stay clear. When they try to flip the script and make you feel guilty for simply speaking up, do not take the bait. Just pause. Return to your original point and firmly stick to the facts. Remember, accountability isn't an attack, and simply holding someone responsible for their actions is not cruelty. Moving right along to our second family of tactics, let's look at the toxic attention trap. You've probably seen this one out in the wild: love bombing. Think about the mechanics of it. Constant contact, huge, sweeping compliments, those deep late-night calls right from the very start. But here is the dirty little secret. Love bombing isn't actually about love, or even getting to know you as a person. It's a performance. It's specifically designed to create a massive emotional high. Why? So that when they suddenly go cold and pull away, you blame yourself and desperately try to win back a version of them that, frankly, never actually existed. Your best way out of this trap of rushed intensity is simply slowing down. Real, genuine connection grows quietly over time. It doesn't rush you to the finish line. You've got to look at their patterns, not just listen to their promises. If someone demands a serious commitment from you before real trust even has time to form, recognize the trap. You absolutely do not owe them an encore to their performance. Now, on the total opposite end of the spectrum, we've got breadcrumbing. This is pure emotional clickbait. It's a random text here, a quick reaction to your social media story there, just barely enough to remind you they exist and keep you hoping. But notice, they never actually commit to real plans. It keeps you emotionally invested, triggering these little hits of dopamine, while they basically stall instead of flat out rejecting you. It leaves you checking your phone at 2 a.m. just hoping this time will be different. The only way to win this game is to stop playing. You have to stop chasing that endless trail of breadcrumbs. Decide right now that mere flashes of interest are simply not enough for you. To take back your control, you must value consistency over charm. You definitely deserve a lot more than crumbs.
Think about this for a second. Is silence a pause or is it a punishment? It's a vital question because, silence in a relationship can be totally respectful, calming, and necessary. But manipulative silence, the classic silent treatment, is something entirely different. It weaponizes absence to control you.
With the silent treatment, the manipulator just goes completely cold and unreachable. They don't yell, they just disappear emotionally. And the uncertainty of this is totally unbearable. It's meant to make you bend, tiptoe around them, and just apologize to end the awful tension. But your defense here, you clearly state, hey, I'm open to talking, but I won't be punished with silence. And then, this is the hard part, you stop chasing the noise. You just hold your ground.
All right, let's shift gears to our third theme, guilt and manufactured chaos. Guilt tripping is so incredibly sneaky because it almost never sounds like a direct demand. It's that heavy sigh, it's a loaded pause, it's a really quiet, well, after everything I've done for you. This tactic literally turns your natural kindness and empathy into currency. It's designed to make you feel selfish, cold, or ungrateful for simply saying no or trying to hold a perfectly healthy boundary.
You really have to learn to spot the difference between these two. Real guilt, that comes from actually violating your own personal values. Manipulated guilt is just someone else's control tactic acting up when they don't get their way. Take a step back and ask yourself, did I actually do something wrong here? Realize that you are totally allowed to hold your boundary, even if someone else gets mad and tries to punish you for it.
Now, watch out for this one, the manufactured chaos of the white knight. On the surface, they look like the hero rushing in to save the day, but in toxic dynamics, they actually follow a very specific setup. First, they quietly stir up conflict and chip away at your confidence behind the scenes. Then, when you're completely falling apart, they swoop in with the hose to save you from the very fire they built. They wrap their control up in concern, keeping you just broken enough to ensure they get to remain your savior. You've got to look closely at the pattern. Are they actually helping you become independent? Or do things mysteriously always seem to fall apart just in time for them to step in? Remember this crucial rule. Genuine help never, ever requires you to hand over your personal power in the process.
Then there's triangulation. This is another classic chaos tactic where they drag an invisible third party into your argument. They'll say things like, well, Sarah totally agrees with me, or literally everyone thinks you're overreacting. Suddenly, you're not just arguing with them, you're defending yourself against a whole invisible team. How do you handle it? You pull the triangle apart. Keep your communication strictly direct. Just say, talk to me, not about me, and absolutely refuse to defend yourself to people who aren't even in the room. Okay, let's bring this all together with our final section, taking your power back.
We've mapped out all the tactics, so what are the overarching rules to actually reclaim your control? Well, first off, when faced with reality distortion, your weapons are aggressive clarity. Write things down and trust your gut. When dealing with the attention pendulum, slow down and absolutely refuse to chase the noise. Remember that holding someone accountable is completely normal, and most importantly, remember that you have the right to step entirely out of these manufactured dramas. You don't have to play a role in someone else's script. Because whether we're talking about gaslighting, breadcrumbing, the silent treatment, or DARVO, whatever the tactic is, the root cause is always about control. They want to be the one holding the pen to your storyline. But here's the best part. Manipulation completely relies on operating in the shadows. The second you name the tactic, the moment you shine a light right on it, you instantly strip away its invisible power over you. And that brings us to the ultimate choice you face once you finally see those strings. You don't have to spend your energy decoding every mixed signal, and you definitely don't have to defend your boundaries to people who are just committed to misunderstanding you. So the next time you feel that sudden wave of confusion, that rushed intensity, or that heavy manufactured guilt, ask yourself, are you going to keep playing a role in their script, or are you ready to hold the pen? It is time to enforce your boundaries, trust your gut, and write your own story. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.